What we're going to talk about tonight is future-proofing your career by really leaning into the human stuff. We're hearing so much about AI and there's a lot of fear-mongering out there. And tonight I really want to lean into how we can future-proof our careers and our leadership styles by getting more in touch with who we are, what our values are, what makes us special, and how we can leverage that human stuff and use it to diversify what our employment opportunities are, what our lifestyle opportunities are. And it really starts with getting down to that level of who am I and why am I here? And so we're going to talk about that tonight. And I want to warn you that things are going to start off a little bit heavy. But I promise that I'm going to turn that ship around. We're going to up spiral it and we're going to end on a positive note. So I want to start off with this question. Are you all seeing the headlines in the news and on social media that I'm seeing? I'm pretty sure you are. And so I just want to ask you, are we being punked? Are we being bamboozled? It's really interesting because we were all sold this fairy tale, I guess, at this point, which was you go to school, you get a degree, you pick your industry, you pick your job, you get the white picket fence, you get the family with 2.5 kids and a dog named Spike, you go on a couple vacations a year if you're lucky, and then you enjoy the fruits of your labor and you sail off into the sunset of retirement. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Just follow the playbook. Well, guess what? Dun dun dun. This is where it gets heavy, so just buckle in and bear with me. You guys, we are living through what many people are calling the biggest collective disruption, not just of our generation, but all of mankind in history, because we have all of these things converging on us at once. I don't know if anyone else feels like, whoo, I need to stabilize myself. There's collective disruption in every sector. It's not just in the workplace, it's in our personal lives, it's literally everywhere. And things are changing faster than the labor market can handle, than our skill sets can handle, and frankly, our overstimulated nervous systems can handle. Can I get an amen here? Am I alone in feeling this way?
No, you are not.
Okay, we got to take a breath. AI is disrupting our sense of safety financially, even from a physical safety standpoint with autonomous AI and weaponry. We have new geopolitical and socioeconomic tensions globally that are also threatening our sense of safety and security financially, physically. Guys, apparently aliens exist and no one's batting an eye at that. Can you fathom the fact that we have politicians and government officials, ex-military, openly talking about the fact that extraterrestrial life exists, and everyone's just like, cool, is the next season of Tiger King ever going to come out? Is Joe Exotic going to get pardoned? We're so overstimulated that we're not even talking about aliens, which it sounds wild, but I'm building up a storyline here. Let's get to the leadership stuff. We have multiple generations now in the workplace in actual leadership positions in Fortune 500s. We got boomers, we got Gen X, we got our millennials, and we got our Gen Zs. And from my observation and a lot of the research, none of us really know how to talk to each other and communicate. No one taught us how to see our differences and to resolve conflict in a way that allows us all to work toward a common goal and drive revenue without getting burnout or even worse. I say all of this today just to level set us all on We are all going to work and showing up and doing our thing, and we're quietly like, WTF, what's happening? And the quiet question that many students are probably asking themselves, and also professionals, is the path that I'm studying for even going to exist when I'm done with this degree? Or is the job that I've been doing for the last 20 years that I went to school for going to be gone in 12 months? Or am I going to be replaced and laid off? We need to start having these courageous conversations in order to have meaningful impact, to make change. We have to be real on what we're all facing collectively. And we have to be honest as leaders, as human beings, that we don't know what the future holds. I don't share all of this to overwhelm you, but in order to find a solution, we always have to have a baseline of where we're at and just have the real talk. And I don't think enough organizations are doing that. I don't think enough personal relationships are doing that, which is let's have the hard conversation and the dialogue in a way that's kind and respectful and just acknowledges where we're all at. And I promise you, we're going to be turning this ship around. We're going to start raising the vibe again. But this is this is courage. It's acknowledging the weirdness that we're all in right now, but also having the knowing that while we might be the generation that's facing all of the culmination of this stuff at one time, this isn't unique to us in the sense that other generations over time have faced technological advances, instability economically, and what seemed scary at the time ended up being okay because new things develop and new jobs will emerge. So, how do we lean into that stuff that is timeless? We are the generation who is going to solve this. We are the collective multi-generation of the boomers, the Xers, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the alphas. We're going to get this right because we're at the breaking point where we need to. And there's going to be a lot of organizational redesign and leadership changes. And we might not like the change, but coming from the tech sector, financial services, leadership development companies, a common theme that people are saying right now is lean into the human stuff, baby. How do we lean into the human stuff? SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, their 2026 State of the Place report came out. And guess what they're all saying? The same thing that all those CEOs and execs are saying. We got to invest in leadership development and employee experience, even more so than AI adoption, because that is the grounding that is essential for organizational health and resilience. These are all of those soft skills. And I hate the word soft skill because it's the core foundational skill. It's how we can communicate and relate to one another. But these are the things that the industry experts are saying is what's needed. Does this track for those of you that are leading teams or learning about this stuff now? How does this wild picture that I framed line up to what you're seeing today? So, how do we hedge this threat or disruption to how we've been living for the last couple of decades? It's being adaptable and flexible and really being able to go with the flow and getting clear on who am I without the job title, without the degree, without the relationships, without any other external label that you apply to yourself. How are you showing up for yourself, for your teams, and in your relationships outside of work? So that's really the place that we got to start. And some of us learned that the hard way. A few years ago, I was served a Tyson style TKO, the Tyson before the Jake Paul Netflix fight, the OG Tyson. Boom. Everything that I've known and gotten used to was disrupted. I was in a fatal car accident. I was being sued for wrongful death from that car accident. So all that safety and stability of what I've earned all my life could go away. I had an illness that I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I got let go from my high profile corporate marketing job. It was the best year of my career. I was winning awards. I was flying back and forth to New York and LA. I was doing celebrity and sports partnerships. And when all of that stuff went away, I had to surrender and just be like, who am I without all of these labels? Who am I without this identity that I had curated over the years? I mean, my own social media, it looked like I was the highest paid brand ambassador for my company. I didn't even post personal stuff. I was sharing content from my company and the brand. What happens when all of that stuff gets stripped away from you? It's so destabilizing. But hindsight is always 2020, as they say. And a lot of times the things that we perceive that are really awful end up being the biggest blessings in disguise. And when we are stripped away from the label of husband or wife or head of marketing, it forces us to do a lot of introspective work. And I had to get radically honest with myself and be like, you know what? What looked good on paper, it actually really wasn't working for me. I didn't know who I was standing in the mirror after that. And I had to ask myself, who are you? What is your value? What's your zone of genius? What's my personal brand? What kind of job do I want next? What do you do next? I was like, I need a way to simplify this and figure this out. Because my brain likes to think in systems thinking and like a marketer, I created a unique framework called the Rebrand Framework. I promise this is not a sales pitch. This is useful. But this helped me to have some kind of roadmap or system to arrive at the things that we started off by talking about, which is what is your identity outside of the degree, the stuff, and how can you leverage that and build something that is future proof in such a way that if your job function became obsolete in 18 months or you lost your job, you'll have some type of grounding and framework to be able to be like, I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know what I'm good at. What I've come to realize is that so many people, myself included, were creating portfolio careers. I didn't know that this was a thing. I guess it's been out for a while, but as I was doing some research around it, I'm like, okay, well, the Harvard Business Review is talking about portfolio careers. And I realized that after I went through this rebrand framework, that I myself had a portfolio career. You pick a niche, obviously, but think about some of the other things that make you you and excite you, where it's an opportunity to bring all of your skills and your passions and your interests merged in such a way that you can start to try different things. And I started to do that and I started to experiment. I am a stand-up comedian right now. I took some comedy classes and I get paid to perform stand-up comedy for organizations and do keynote speeches. I got curious and started taking classes on becoming a better speaker. I've always been interested in psychology and how our minds work, so I got some certifications in neuroscience related disciplines. When I went through this process, I also uncovered that one of the through lines of my life has been education and communication. That always was really firm for me. So I knew by going through this process what my through line was. I knew that I didn't necessarily want to jump right into another marketing executive role because I knew that I wanted this next chapter of my life and my career to have a bit more meaning for me personally. I love marketing, but I wanted to experiment and try something else. When you identify your zone of genius, mine is words. I love writing, speaking, entertaining. I love education, communicating. I know that if I start to experiment and try some new things, it's not such a crazy departure from what I've been doing because it's still aligned to that central theme. So, how do we get down to this? How do we start to uncover your identity and your personal brand and aligned paths for yourself? It's so important that we recognize all that wild craziness that we looked at the beginning of the presentation. We use it to empower us to make better decisions about what does this mean for me? And I don't think we can always have a contingency plan A, B, C, D, and E. Sometimes we do just have to go with the flow. But if we're really grounded and solid on who we are, what we stand for, what we're good at, and we start to take some intentional action in micro steps toward moving in some new direction, man, when things feel shaky, we can feel more grounded. So I will leave you with this. Who do you need to become? Who do you need to become in order to achieve your goals? How are you feeling about how you're living today? Do you feel like you know what your values are? Do you know what your zone of genius is? If you had to pivot, do you have some ideas on what that could look like? If you do need some kind of structured guidance, very practical, prescriptive, do this first, then do that. My book is a great resource. I say that not to sell books. Great if you do, but this is my inner hippie, my inner corporate hippie. It's really to uplift humanity because we're all going through a tough time right now. Even if your life looks great, you're still scrolling when you're trying to find your funny cat video and you get boom, the war in your face or some horrible, depressing thing. You could be living your best life, but you're still getting impacted at the subconscious level about all the craziness that's going on. And so I really just want to help, like, whatever we can do to raise the vibe, raise the frequency, and just uplift people. That is my mission. And I don't know what the heck that looks like, but I'm just testing and learning along the way.